Cross out the ones who heard my cries and watched me weep. I love everything. Fire spreading all around my room. My world's so bright, it's hard to breathe, but that's alright.
Yo guys, what is up? Max from Borderlands 3 video, and today we're talking about FL4K's new skill tree, the Trapper skill tree, and his new action skill. Now, this skill tree, like, immediately at glance doesn't seem too strong, but there's some weird interactions that happen that I'm going to be breaking down today that make this extremely strong. If you guys do enjoy the video, if you learn anything new, be sure to drop a like, comment, and subscribe. And with that, guys, let's get right into it. So, starting us off, we have the Gravity Snare. Now, Gravity Snare is FL4K's new action skill, and it is basically an AoE crowd control that when you throw it, it knocks up enemies, and you can increase the radius. There's a few different augments for it, but basically it's a crowd control, knocks up enemies, and then drops them, knocks them back up, drops them, and works pretty well for keeping enemies off of you. Now, we're going to go through the skills and the augments, and then we're going to talk about some synergies because there are some crazy synergies. Now, first off, we've got to go fast. Now, FL4K's pets gain increased movement speed and damage. Pet damage, notoriously not very strong, but everything comes together so well here because of this skill. Now I'm going to jump to this skill, but FL4K's pets gain a copy of FL4K shield. This copy of their shield is one of the two crazy skills in this tree that just like truly blow it out of the water. Now take this, FL4K's pets gain a copy of FL4K shield. Your pet is going to get your shield. It's going to, I have a video testing every single shield on FL4K's pet that should be coming out soon, but tested the one-shotter, the Nova Burner, the Messy Breakup, the Red Suit, the Frozen Heart, the Rico, the Revengeinator, the Version 0.M, the Stinger. The amount of creativity and things that you can do with this is really crazy. But one thing that you guys should know is the damage that the pet does with the shield. Any shield damage is considered pet damage. And that is where this starts to get crazy. Now, next up, we'll get into more of that in a second, but we have success imminent. Whenever FL4K or their pet shield break or is filled, they and their pet create a radiation nova. This skill has a short cooldown. Now, any of these things that have like a base damage, like that says nova damage, they all get mayhem scaling. So even though it doesn't look like a lot of damage, this does around like 1 to 5 million typically, is what I was seeing. Combat Veterinarian is going to give us lifesteal whenever we shoot at the same enemy that our pet is targeting. Agility training is increased reload speed for both FL4K and her pet. Better toys, FL4K and their pet gain shield recharge rate and shield recharge delay. And then we have one of the best skills in this whole tree, Throat Ripper. Hunter skill. FL4K's pets attacks have a chance to score a critical hit, dealing increased damage. Now, we have critical hits. Before we've had that skill. Go for the Eyes is when FL4K's pet attacks enemy. The first melee attack is automatic critical hit. This critical hit is like Megavore, but for any damage source in the entire game. That's where this hidden is so strong, is with Throat Ripper, any source of damage can crit. Now, for example, if you throw on Gamma Burst with Atomic Aroma, every dot, every tick of the dot, no matter how much damage that the dot tick does, can crit, right? So all of the dots that the pet creates can crit. I'll explain more in a second. But next we have Lethal Fourth Authorized. Whenever FL4K's loader bot would go into fight for your life, it turns into an EXP loader and seeks out enemies and explodes. FL4K's pet's respawn time is reduced. This hits like a truck. Really awesome skill. You have to be using a loader bot, but it's 58k without mayhem scaling, so this will destroy things. We already said take this, copy of shield. Monkey Do. Flex pets gain increased critical damage. Whenever flex pets score a critical hit, flex next shot deal bonus damage based on their weapon's damage. Now remember that the critical hits that can be scored by the pet can trigger off of anything. If the pet, for example, is sending out faulty star novas all over the place, anytime it's damaged, that nova can trigger a crit, which then gives us 70% bonus damage on our next shot. If we're using a red suit and dotting enemies like crazy, it'll keep feeding us this bonus damage. So that's kind of like what I'm trying to say is like immediately looking at this, there isn't, it may not seem as great, but once you put on something on your pet and give it a shield that's going to be dotting things, and then all of those dots keep feeding you bonus damage on all of your shots, is where this skill tree really, really shines. And I really want to get that across because it's not as apparent at first glance. Woolly Armor, when flex pets shields are full, the pet gains damage reduction, pet damage reduction plus 75%, just nice to have. Not even a challenge. Whenever flex pets kill an enemy, flex gains increased action skill duration and action skill cooldown rate for the short time this effect stacks. This is a ton of cooldown, regeneration, and increased duration. Very, very good skill. I've been messing around with it, and you can make your action skill last very long. Next up, we have Fuzzy Math. Now, this is the next big boy skill for this tree, and ties together all of the other synergies that we just explained. So, Fuzzy Math, whenever Flak or their pet scores a critical hit, a portion of Flak and their pet shields are restored. Now, this is like Shield Lifesteal, but it doesn't matter how hard you hit with it. As long as a crit happens, you're going to get 15% of your max shields. Now, there is an internal cooldown of this of 0.5 seconds, I believe. I noticed that when using weapons, but I wasn't really noticing that when my pet was critting. I don't know if that's a thing or not. I need to do more testing. But to like wrap this all together, when you are using a weapon like the Reflux, or you're using the Light Show, or the Monarch, or the Hellwalker, all of your crits, if you're using Megavore, are going to regen your shield, turning things like the one-shotter shield into the B shield. Now, this sounds amazing because it is amazing, but what's truly the best part of this is actually the pet crits. Now, pet crits are happening way more often than you would think if you were using something that gives your pet dot. I've been using Gamma Burst, giving my pet Gamma Burst with Atomic Aroma, and your pet will be running around, and if you use Red Fang, all of the enemies will gather around your pet. All of them are going to be getting dotted, and you can just stand there and you become unkillable because your pet is dotting so many things. All those dots can crit, and all of those dots will be giving you 15% of your max shield every time they go off. This leads to Fleck being very, very tanky, and you can use that in conjunction with like a Deathless to get an even bigger shield, and then you could pop on a U-Rat Anoint, and things get really, really crazy. And now, next up, we have Keep Them Safe. Whenever Flack issues an attack command, if Flack or other pet shield is less than half full, portion of Flack and their pet shields are restored. This skill has a short cooldown. Now, you're going to get 50% of your max shields whenever you use an attack command. This one's a little weird because you have to use the attack command. The attack command has to go off, and then you get your max shields, and you're already going to be getting max shields so fast from Fuzzy Math. So I don't think this is going to be as important for Flak builds as Fuzzy Math, especially when they're right here. And then lastly, we have Capacitance. Whenever Flak activates their action skill, they gain greatly increased shield capacity for a short time and immediately begin recharging their shields. This skill has a short cooldown. Now, this has a cooldown of 16 seconds, meaning that you're going to double your shield capacity. You're doubling your shield capacity for 16 seconds. You cannot spam this with Rack Attack. If you use Rack Attack, your shield isn't going to increase every time you throw out a Rack Attack. It is just that time for 16 seconds, and then you can do it again. Otherwise, this would be pretty broken, but just a heads up on that. Now, the side augments we'll talk about in a second, but yeah, let's talk about the side augments. We have Forage. Basically, you're going to knock enemies into the air. They drop health, ammo boosters, and shield boosters. Forage, very, very nice. Wide net, I think, is pretty much a must for this. It's basically going to increase the duration by 25%, but it doubles the radius of the trap. And having this just makes the trap so much better to use, in my opinion, because the radius just becomes huge on it. Without it, it doesn't feel as great to use, but with wide net, it's really great. Trap card, if Flak would go into fight for life while the trap is ready, they automatically throw a trap at the enemy that downed them. So this is not like a Guardian Angel type skill. You're not going to get out of fight for your life if you would have gone into fight for your life, but when you do go into fight for your life, you throw a trap. And lastly, we have Blind with Anger. Now, this is not to be overlooked. Blind with Anger doesn't knock up or stun, but it confuses nearby enemies, causing them to attack their allies for a short time. Once deployed, the trap continuously, periodically confuses enemies for the duration. Now, that originally, to me, didn't sound that good because skills in this game that confuse enemies, usually they become immune to damage and you can't attack them. But I think this is the best thing that you could use on it because you can still damage the enemies that are in it. So like, for example, if I throw it down here, all of these enemies, I can still do the same amount of damage to. I don't like lose any damage. They're not immune to my damage, but they basically just ignore me. It's kind of like using the Red Fang, but without actually having to use the Red Fang. And I think for this skill tree, if you're going to use Gravity Snare, is definitely going to be a must because like you basically just, as long as you're in this thing, any enemies that try to come into it to try to hurt you are going to get confused and just completely ignore you and also kill their friends. So that is a really, really strong augment for this. Lastly, we have the Ion Loader. The Ion Loader's 3 different passives are Elemental Resistance, Shield Capacity, and Fire Rate. And they differ in that the Pet Ion Loader has a Shock Sniper Rifle and Shock Orbs that trigger Shock Novas. The Bull Loader is going to have a shotgun and it does melee attacks and charges enemies and knocks them up when you send them out. The Ion Loader fires a powerful eye laser at the enemy when you use the attack command. And lastly, my favorite one, the War Loader. Flak's Ion Loader upgrades into a War Loader, disregarding its sniper rifle and equipping an incendiary shotgun and grenades, and it also fires missile barrages with giving you 12% fire rate. This one so far is my favorite because it seems to do the most damage, which I really like. Now, the mechanics and in-depths of how shields work on this and how the different shields work, I will have a separate video on that if you're watching this right now. Hopefully, I'll have out now or really soon. But getting into the math of how these shields work and understanding their interactions and synergies with this while they're on the pet and the damage conversion that happens is very important to maximizing this skill tree. So hopefully I'll have a card for that video up there. But guys, that is going to be it for the video. Flak's new skill tree is really, really cool. Has some awesome synergies. We'll have build videos for it, everything you guys need to know. And I will catch you guys in the next one. Take care. Peace.
I was putting in the